Hi to our podcast audience and to our online listeners. I've got a favor and an offer to ask you. If you are subscribed via Apple Podcasts, take a moment to write a review. A, we love to hear your feedback. It inspires me and the crew tremendously. And B, we'll put you in the pool that could get included in an upcoming show. Want to hear your review on the air? What do you say? Now, on with this week's show. Hi, I'm Laura Flanders, and this is The Laura Flanders Show, the TV and radio program that seeks to raise radical spirits by interviewing forward-thinking people with real-life models of shifting power from the few to the many in the worlds of arts, entrepreneurship, and governance. Hi, I'm Laura Flanders, this time coming to you from Brick, in the heart of downtown Brooklyn, a community arts and media space that also is a community access television station. This winter, the Under the Radar Festival, which is produced by the Public Theater in New York City, hosted the most extraordinary performance right here at Brick. It was a return performance for the star of the show, Jess Thom, who performed Not I, a piece I had only seen entirely abstracted from any human participation on a little screen, on television. Just made it into an entirely different performance. We're going to talk about that and more about what Jess brings to her work. It's all coming up on the Laura Flanders Show, the place where the people who say it can't be done take a back seat to the people who are doing it. Welcome. I'm going to start by introducing myself the way that everybody introduced themselves at the show. I'm Laura Flanders. I'm a white woman in her 50s wearing a kind of blue checkered suit and with very messy, really needs cutting hair. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Biscuit. I'm Jess Thom. I'm an artist, a writer, Biscuit, and a part-time superhero. Biscuit, sausage, Biscuit. I also have Tourette's syndrome, which means that I make movements and noises, Biscuit, I can't control, called tics, Biscuit. Some of my most regular tics, vocal tics, include biscuit and hedgehog and sausage and cats, Biscuit, donkeys. And so nothing gets lost in translation when I say biscuit. Think cookie. Biscuit. Biscuit. I also have motor tics that mean that I move around and bang my chest.
So that would be the sound that our podcast listeners are hearing?
Yes, you can probably hear the sound of my hand banging my chest. But don't worry, I'm wearing padded gloves to stop my knuckles getting sore. I'm a white woman of average build in my late 30s with short curly brown hair and a very cool wheelchair.
Well, it is a very cool wheelchair. Now, this is perhaps a little unorthodox, but if Samuel Beckett was here, how would he introduce himself?
Biscuit. I think he would probably start by saying that he was a white man and a writer and a playwright and someone who's really, I think, interested in experimental art and performance and in creating experiences that make you feel things. And I think that's why we were really drawn to Not I as a performance, because there was so much about both the way the play was written, Biscuit, and that the way the play was staged that spoke deeply to my lived experience.
Talk about that. I mean, a lot of people think of Beckett, if they do at all these days, as kind of abstract, kind of postmodern.
Biscuit.
Not the way you did it.
Biscuit.
And it actually brought to reality a whole character, the character of Mouth that he wrote, who before I think had lacked body, history, humanity,
Biscuit.
At least in the performance I'd say.
Yeah, Biscuit. I think the experience of watching Mouth as a performance and the experience of reading it as a text are very different. And some of that is because of the stage directions, which include Mouth being raised 8 feet in the air, just the light on the mouth from close up and the rest of the space in darkness, and the urgency and the pace, the speed with which you're required to perform the piece. And for me, it was also that urgency, that urgent need to give voice to your experience felt really relevant to my life as a disabled person now and to how I feel about sort of disability arts and culture more generally, and the idea that we need to give voice to the barriers that we experience day to day. I had never come across Samuel Beckett before. I didn't train as a performer, and I hadn't read his plays or seen them performed. But I was introduced to Not I at a time when my tics were intensifying, the movements and noises that I make because of Tourette's syndrome. And I was finding it really hard to recognise them as part of me, as part of my body, as the product of my brain. And I would talk about the Tourettes and the tics. And then here was this text about a character who was distancing herself from probably her own voice and not saying I, but saying she. And that felt very relevant to me. And it's kicked around as a reference for Touretteshero. We work across art forms, making theatre and working with museums and galleries and putting on big creative events for children and young people and doing lots of work that focuses on humour and creativity. So this was a big shift for us, really, and felt risky to take on a play that was so intense. Biscuit, but I think we felt that there was this cultural curation that was happening about what work was and wasn't being made accessible to disabled people, and I think I would have found it very hard to have gone and seen any of the previous productions, Biscuit, of this play because of the noises that I make, and felt safe.
Well,
Biscuit.
we'll talk more about Touretteshero in just a minute, but I just want to thank you for making the work accessible to me, a work that had not felt super accessible. That's an intellectual and emotional level. You also made it super accessible to the audience by holding it in this beautiful space, but in what you call a relaxed performance style. What does that mean?
Biscuit, so relaxed performance is a growing movement within theatre, Biscuit, that loosens and relaxes some of the rules around theatre etiquette. It takes a relaxed approach to noise and movement coming from the audience, means that people can come and go from the performance space as they need to, and provides information ahead of the performance that uses words and images and that explains what to expect and gives a view of what the sort of sensory landscape of the show will be like, so that people can make a decision about whether they want to go and see something and whether that's going to work for them or not. And so that we then hopefully create spaces that welcome in a very varied group of people and allow people to be themselves.
So you have cushions, you
Biscuit.
have fixed chairs, you
Biscuit.
have ear defenders,
Yeah.
the doors are wide, literally, physically widened.
Biscuit, yeah. So it's and sort of modular, so that the amazing thing about theatre is that it's a live experience and it's a group of people coming together to share in an experience. And so often we sort of ignore the humanity of our audience and expect them to constrain their bodies, and we wanted to not do that, but actually say we are a group of people sharing an experience together, and we can make this room and this space work for us. And we wanted to demonstrate how you can take an intense piece of theatre and make it accessible at every level to audience and performer without reducing the theatrical intensity. There is a big difference between taking a creative risk and seeing Biscuit, something that you might or might not like, and taking a risk with a core part of your identity. And so often, when I've gone into theatre spaces, I am taking a risk with essential parts of myself and being at risk of people complaining about my body and brain, and I didn't want anyone to feel that here, and to be free to take a creative risk and see a work that is challenging, but also has lots to tell us about the world we live in.
I mean, without shedding differences, a lot
Biscuit.
of people feel cut out of theatre,
Yeah.
shut out, that they
Yeah.
won't fit, that they don't know the code,
Biscuit.
that they don't know the rules.
Biscuit. That's the amazing thing about relaxed performance is actually, and I think sometimes people worry that if you relax the rules around theatre etiquette, there's anarchy. And sadly, there's not anarchy, but it does allow space, Biscuit, for inclusivity. And I think that there's the brilliant thing actually about thinking about access as a creative tool from the start of the project, from the start of the process, rather than something that you add on at the end, is that by thinking about different types of people and body and mind, that actually you create a more exciting, dynamic experience for everybody. So what I love most about relaxed performances is that they benefit everybody but are inclusive of people who...
I always say when you widen the circle, you widen the circle. You make it bigger.
Here's Jess Thom performing Samuel Beckett's Not I. Beckett's the same guy who brought us Waiting for Godot. You can also watch this and all of today's show at our website, lauraflanders.org. The clip comes courtesy of Sunshine and Jess Thom's company Touretteshero, which we'll hear more about in just a moment.
Thanks so much for coming, Biscuit. My name's Jess, Biscuit, and my sign name is Jess. Yikes. Jess. Yeah, it's still Jess. Yikes. The performance will be about 12 minutes long. After that, we'll have a chance to ask questions and do some shouting together. Biscuit, and at the end, I'll stick around and you'll be welcome to come and say hello. All being well, we'll be finished within the hour. Is everyone ready? Yes. Great. I was hoping you were going to say no. Great. In a moment, we're going to count down from 3. Biscuit. And I'd like everyone to shout or sign I. Then we'll bring down the lights. Okay. 3, 2, 1, I. Hedgehog, biscuit, cats, biscuit, cats.
We could talk about this forever. I grew up in the theatre. My father was in a wheelchair on the stage. I remember, as a young person, seeing the fire drills, which evacuated everyone from the building. The fire curtain would come down, and he was on the other side of it. There was no evacuating him. He needed to get on off the stage with a forklift truck.
Yeah.
So this is huge progress. Let's talk about Tourette's.
Tourette's!
You are
Donkeys.
Tourette's superhero.
Yes.
Tourette's Hero is the organization you founded.
Yes.
Here's a taste of Jess in full Tourette's superhero gear. Again, you can see for yourself at lauraflanders.org.
I'll have to make this quick. We don't have much time. For those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. I'm Touretteshero, the world's first fully fledged Tourette superhero.
Ow! This is a masterclass in spontaneity. Biscuit, we have been practicing for this for weeks by doing nothing. So, Biscuit, cat sex pyjamas though. Biscuit, hedgehog, I propose. Biscuit, that humour and creativity, Biscuit, are key tools, Biscuit, in encouraging people to think more deeply about an often, Biscuit, mocked condition. Biscuit, put simply, Biscuit, Tourette's mission is to change the world, one tic at a time. Hello, Biscuit. Hello, hedgehog, Biscuit. I'm imagining you all in bikinis. Hedgehog, Biscuit. Not really. Hedgehog, Biscuit.
To begin, let's just set the context. You say you're a disabled person, but it's not your Tourette's that disables you.
No, right, exactly. So I understand myself as a disabled person within the concept of something called the social model of disability. And that's a way of thinking about disability that gets away from thinking about it more medically or from a charity perspective and thinking that people need to be cured or pitied. And the only way to resolve issues of disability is to focus on the impairment that someone has. They're the facts about people's bodies. All our bodies are different and work in different ways, and some people have impairments and other people don't. What disables me is a failure to consider that difference and that diversity of body and mind in the way that we set up environments, systems, and attitudes. But the exciting thing about that is that by acknowledging those barriers and by talking about them, by thinking about difference, we can create less disabling spaces.
Have you always felt this way?
No, that's definitely Biscuit. I've had tics since I was about 6. As a child, they were milder and less noticeable to other people. The earliest things that I can remember are Biscuit squeaking noises and making facial gestures. They intensified in my early 20s and began to have a bigger impact on my life. And my initial response was to try and ignore them, to distance myself from that, to try and mask it and hide and fit in. And my life became increasingly restricted as a result. And I would do things like sit on my arms and legs to give myself pins and needles, Biscuit, just so I could feel a different sensation in my body other than the sort of discomfort of tics and the need to move. I would save tics up and try and let them out in the restroom where people wouldn't notice, and I would avoid places that I perceived as quiet. So, and I know that that's, we do lots of work with families who have children with Tourette's, and we did a big creative event at Tate Modern and Tate Britain a couple of years ago, and some of the families spoke as to the BBC radio as part of that. And I was really sad to hear that families were describing not going to places they perceived as quiet. And I thought, imagine if as a child, and as a family, you are curating your activities to try and avoid your child being discriminated against or being noticed? And what message do we send to children and to young people and to adults if we're saying you have to fix yourself, hold your tics in, be in pain, just to be able to be in this space? And so Touretteshero is all about challenging that way of thinking. And it started really for me, I think one of the big moments of change for me, Biscuit, was a conversation with Matthew Pountney, who's the co-founder of Touretteshero and the director of Not I. And he described Tourette's as a crazy language generating machine, Biscuit, and told me that not doing something creative with it would be wasteful. And I was able to hear that sentence in a totally different way. We'd talked about Tourette's loads before, but that caught my imagination in a particular way and started to allow me to see that there might be value to my neurodiversity, and that having Tourette's gave me access to a spontaneous creativity that I wouldn't have afterwards. And I'd been brought up to think that being wasteful was very bad. So rather than waste that, we decided to...
a superpower.
Yeah. Hedgehog.
You give the audience an opportunity, or you give other people getting out of the theatre mode. We get a chance to relax around your tics too. Yes. Now, we don't do it without a lot of care by you. Yeah. And I was very struck by how you spend your time before the show begins kind of getting everyone to be comfortable. Yeah. On the one hand, it's great. We want to know, like, can we laugh? Yes. Is it okay? And maybe you should answer those questions. Yeah. It's all right if we laugh? It's
totally all right if you laugh. If I say things that are funny, and some of my tics are surreal and funny, in the way that the conscious part of me can only dream of. Anything I've ever known has the potential to become a tic, and ideas get collided together, to create new concepts.
It's not your subconscious narration of the moment?
No traumatic experiences with biscuits. I don't think about biscuits nearly as much as I talk about them. Sausage dogs, I think about sausage dogs more, potentially. Anything can be a tic. And I think that sometimes people say, I'd love to have Tourette's because I can get away with swearing whenever I like, or I get to say, I can get away with saying whatever I like. And actually that totally misses the point, because actually the challenge of Tourette's is that I say things that aren't my conscious thoughts, that aren't the things that I want to reveal about myself. Sometimes they can be environmental, they can be there is a suggestibility to tics, and sometimes that's about saying the worst thing in any given situation. So I will be the one explaining to airport security, that there's not a bomb or a Springer Spaniel in my bag. Sausage! But I also think that having Tourette's means that I have had incredible conversations with people that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And there's a piece of research in the UK that found that 67% of the general public said they felt uncomfortable talking to a disabled person. And that's simply saying hello. But I think that discomfort is real, and I think that's echoed, all over the world. So I think the way to start breaking down barriers is to start by having conversations.
But that requires you to do a ton of work. Do you ever get fed up?
Yeah, of course. And it shouldn't be on people who experience barriers or marginalisation to be doing all of that work. It is our shared responsibility to be identifying barriers and thinking about difference in order to create a world and a society that works for as many people as possible. And at the moment, we often shape a world for a very particular body in mind, and that is what's exclusionary. And actually, lots of people, if you can follow the rules of theatre, for example, and you can make yourself be still and quiet, even if that isn't the ideal way for you to be comfortable in a space, then you probably don't think about people who can't. It's really natural to not be thinking about experiences that aren't your own. And that's why conversations, questions, shared laughter are so powerful in connecting us together and helping us see things from different perspectives.
This is the Laura Flanders Show. I'm Laura. My guest is artist, writer, and playworker Jess Thom. She's a Tourette's superhero, figuratively and literally, as you've heard. She's co-founder of the organization Touretteshero, which she's been talking about. And in case you were wondering about the extra sounds you've been hearing, that's her Tourette's. It's a neurological condition that causes involuntary movements and sounds. Jess's tics, like the word biscuit, or the pounding of her hand against her chest, are involuntary. She says they're increasing her spontaneity, though. What's her mission? To change the world, one tic at a time, while rethinking accessibility as a creative tool from the start for everyone. We've been covering disability justice a good deal this past year. We're going to keep it up. I'm going to try to integrate it into everything I do. So if you support that, download and share this podcast with your social media friends and tag us. That's hashtag the LF Show. And if you're hearing us on your community radio station, tag them too. Thank the station and spread the word. And don't forget to pay your pledge. Talking about justice, media access survives by a thread in today's media monopoly world. Your direct sharing of our posts and word of mouth about this show is key to spreading the program. Next, we discuss how Jess's creative work informs the political as people with disabilities face austerity and more. Budget cuts can literally cut her off, says Jess. But first, here's Bacabana by Brooklyn Funk Essentials from their album Stay Good, courtesy of Dorado Records.
Also be why education and government and regulations,
Yes.
but just government encouragement can help. I hate to mention your new government, Boris Johnson, and your situation, but your work is, like ours, taking place inside this political context. How is that affecting the work?
Well, I think it directly relates to why we wanted to stage this play now, because the UK has experienced 10 years of austerity, which has led to lots of cuts to services, and disabled people have been particularly hard hit by those. And certainly for me as a disabled artist, I know the support that if it was pulled, if it was cut, it would stop me performing and working, doing a job I love, making a contribution, being financially independent. I know the things that would sort of turn me off as a artist, immediately, and therefore that gives everything that I do a sense of urgency. And it feels like I'm really interested in how art can be part of that resistance and building capacity to resist, and helping people connect with ideas that might change their thinking. Because my life was changed by a single sentence. I connected with a different approach to my body, and rather than see myself as the problem, I understood that neurodiversity was my power and had power. But we have to get as many people talking and thinking and connecting with each other now more than ever.
I mean, you're disrupting, and the disability justice movement is disrupting more than just our thinking about ability, disability, but also normality. I was tempted to say, I'm a white woman, regular, medium build, in my 50s with no disability that I'm aware of right this minute, or that you might be aware of. But I mean, to what extent do you think we are also called upon to reconsider our sense of the hero, the solo hero, and that this aspiration that we want to be independent, meaning, relieved of needing help, or we want to be normal even, whatever that might be.
Biscuit. Yeah, I mean, and the idea of independence is actually just like the concept of normality. Neither of those things really exist, because none of us are totally independent beings. We are codependent on each other in different ways and at different points in our lives. For me, a big moment for me and in my journey as a disabled person was realizing that independence didn't have to mean doing everything for myself. And I think when my body was changing and my tics were changing and I was finding that hard to adjust, I wanted to hold on to independence and hold on to what I perceived to be my identity that related to that. And so asking for help felt like some sort of failing. Actually, being in control of the decisions and being able to know the things that I need and then ask for help when I need it and have the language and confidence to do that has been incredibly powerful, and that's what independence means. Independence is not about making my own cup of tea or cutting carrots, because those things get very messy for me, Biscuit. But independence is about I am not disabled by my body, but I am disabled by a lack of the right support.
So I could keep talking with you forever, and I could hear about all the other plays you want to do, but just quickly give our audience some sense of where they might see more about your work, or even catch a performance, or be part of Touretteshero. And then finally, anything you think you really just maybe mouth-like want to express, but you haven't had a chance.
So to find out more about Touretteshero, people could start by going to the website, Touretteshero.com. I have written a blog for a decade, so there is lots about my day-to-day experience as someone with Tourette's. Some of that's funny, some of that's challenging. There are also tics on there, over 6,000 things that I've said as tics, and they are there to be used as inspiration and catalysts for other people's creativity. So we invite you to make artwork in response, whether that's poetry or imagery or performance.
You have a book?
Biscuit, I have a book. Welcome to Biscuit Land. Biscuits! And the thing that I want people to know is that when I say I'm a disabled person, that doesn't say anything negative about me at all. It doesn't diminish me in any way. It isn't related to ability. I am a person who experiences barriers because of how my body and mind works. But disability isn't a dirty word, and there is an incredible, rich arts scene and cultural scene that comes out of the experience of those barriers. So I am one of many disabled artists making incredible, important and challenging work. Not that my work's incredible, but there's this rich scene.
It is incredible.
And I would really like people to, that's for everybody. And disability isn't a niche issue. 1 in 5 of us identify as disabled, and it is relevant to everyone who has a body and a mind. And we all have the power to be inclusive and to support each other and to make and shape a world that works better for us all. And art can be part of changing that and helping people connect with each other.
Alice Shepherd, when she was on the show, the choreographer who works with Kinetic Light, said she feels she's part of a disability arts movement, sort of like the Black Arts movement maybe of the 20th century. Is that what it feels like to you? Do you feel like we're at a turning point or an sort of efflorescence of this work?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I say I'm a disabled artist, I feel proud and I feel strong and I feel connected to a group of people who may have very different impairments from me, but who have shared experiences, and that I can give and receive solidarity within that. And I think that at the moment, now more than ever, it's so easy as a disabled person for your life and your expectations to be impacted by the politics of where you live and to be defined by the politics of place. We have to have those conversations about disability, arts, culture and justice and rights across borders. And we, as an international movement of disabled artists and activists, I think connecting with each other and challenging each other to keep making ambitious work and having high expectations of the world around us is essential.
Beautiful.
Sausage!
Thank you so very much.
That's artist, writer, and Tourette's superhero Jess Thom. She's the co-founder of the group Touretteshero, which is all about telling a new story around Tourette's. You can see this interview and find out more about Jess at our community site, patreon.com/The LF Show. That's where we connect with you, post resources, hear from you what you want from this program. We put links to related shows and a whole lot more. People with disabilities, and that could be any of us at any moment, are barely covered in our money media. We want to change that on this show. When you become a member of our Patreon community, you help make that possible by fueling our ability to do enterprising reporting and take just that little bit of extra time to make sure our programs are accessible. It's super easy to become a member of our Patreon community. Just go to patreon.com/The LF Show. That's patreon.com/The LF Show. And thanks. The Laura Flanders Show is made possible from the Novo, Ford, Tomcat, Cloud Mountain, and Fonda Foundations, as well as by listeners like you. So thank you. Stay kind, stay curious. Until the next time, I'm Laura.